And I echo what everybody has said. I think it's kind of exciting times all the way around for the Big Ten Conference and all the schools that are in this because of the new format. And we're looking forward to it. The message that, much has been made to do about seeding and all the talk about what Indiana has put themselves in position to potentially be on this. I think the message that, we are communicating to our club is this is the beauty of baseball, is that all of that stuff, the regular season conference record, the out of conference, none of that means anything when you get to this point. I mean, everybody is vying for a chance to continue on and play for a national championship. So from our perspective, we're not, we're putting all that stuff behind us, and we're looking for a really good week of baseball in Omaha. And when you think of baseball, you think of Omaha. And we had the good fortune of being here last year and seeing what this city can do when it gets behind a tournament. So I'm excited. I know our kids are excited to be back here in the Big Ten tournament because I think it's going to be an outstanding week all the way around for all the teams. But again, our message is we're not taking anything for granted. We're throwing all that aside, and anything can happen in a tournament, and we're going to try our best to put our best foot forward and hopefully stay deep in this thing. Well, I think when I was referring to earlier, I think everybody's excited to see what this city's going to bring. I think that's, for me, is what I'm anticipating most. And I think in anything, whether it's baseball or life or whatever, you want to be appreciated for what you do, and I think this is a great stage for the Big Ten Conference to show, a quality product in front of some knowledgeable baseball fans, as you said, and I'm looking forward to that, and I appreciate their support and looking forward to get out there and showing off for them. So, looking forward to it. Yeah, I mean, we would love to see the fences 250 to dead center.
Your pitching coach would.
Yeah, exactly. I remember this dominating, and I never know if you're being baited as a coach to say something because you don't understand that I don't understand the political climate around here. But I remember this conversation quite a bit last June, and my attitude going into it was very cavalier. It was, I don't care, it doesn't matter. We played in big ballparks before. My attitude was much different after a few days into the tournament. And so I remember walking away or coming away from the tournament. You're always disappointed at a loss. And this is just my honest to God feeling. It's the truth, and so I'm not placing blame. I'm not putting anything other than it's Tracy Smith's opinion. I agree with everybody in what they said. I don't think you can account for what happened when it was being built, all the variables that were not in play when it was designed. But I think what we have now is we have the greatest stage of college baseball is the national championship, and you have a game that is played differently. So I'm speaking away from the Big Ten tournament, but when you get it to that point, when you bring those teams in for the national championship, it is a different game that everybody has played all year. And I don't see that in any other championship series across college athletics. So I would agree with Rick in that if the flat seam baseball doesn't change it, there's some pretty cool things you can do with the outfield wall and moving. They've done it at the major league level. Heck, we had to do it in our new ballpark. We had put in a concrete wall and realized that's not going to be baseball when it's all said and done. So we readjusted our design. So I think it is an issue at the NCAA level, and again, that's just my opinion, because you shouldn't have to play a different game when you get to the ultimate point in the season, and I think that's what you have now. But as far as the park in general, the guts of this is the most magnificent facility I think I've ever been in, and so again, I don't want to make it sound like it's a disaster. This place is unbelievable, but I do think the fences need to be in a little bit. That's my personal opinion. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a proponent of the flats, and I've said this publicly numerous times, is I think college baseball in general is in a great state right now, because and my judge of that is that the Indiana universities of the world had a chance to go to the World Series, the Kent States, the Stony Brook. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's a direct result of scaling back some of the stuff with the bats and making it more more neutral across the board. So I like where college baseball is right now. I don't want to see it get back to, as I've always referred to it, guerrilla ball, because that's where depth and some other things can come into play, and I could talk for hours about that and why that sometimes is difficult from where we are geographically. But I love going to d1baseball.com at the end of the day and checking scores in the top 20 and top 25 and seeing that historically programs that aren't strong battling historical top 20 teams, sometimes beating them on a more consistent basis. And I think that's happened a lot more recently because they've reduced the bat standards. And so I'm anxious to see. I'm not in favor necessarily of the flat seam baseball. I understand why it makes sense out here for the championship for the reasons that I just said, but I'll be anxious to see how that plays out. Do we get back to where we were a few years ago, where guerrilla ball is the way to go? And I don't know. Well, I mean, it's tough to change on the fly. I mean, you're going to be who you are, and I kept saying that. And apparently last year, being who we were was not good enough. I don't think I can go up and now tell Kyle Schwarber to try to poke balls through the middle. I mean, I think he's going to be who he is. So we just got to, maybe be a little bit better on the pitching side of it, which I think we are this year. But am I going to go ask my guys to change offensively? I just don't think that I can or will. But that goes back to what I was saying earlier about here we are talking about that type of strategy going into a championship series, and that goes back to the question about the park. I mean, I don't think that stuff should even be in consideration. And in dialogue, when you're talking about playing for a chance, to ask your team to do something differently they've done all year, isn't that a problem?
Time for one more.
Awesome. More, Tracy, just what do you mean to you just to pretty much sweep the awards? I think Travis was Player of the Year, Joey Pitcher of the Year, Coach of the Year. Just what do you mean to you guys?
I haven't heard that. Well, that's great for them, and and that's cool. And I guess from that standpoint, I mean, I think all the coaches would agree. We're as good as our players, and thank goodness that we've had some pretty darn good players. So congratulations to those guys, and excited for them.